Hi there, and welcome to another episode of the Bionic Water-colourist. I'd first like to introduce you guys again to another installment of my, at this point, drawing channel. I'd just like to do a quick shout out to Izzy. Guess what, Izzy? I've doubled my audience. And now I know that Rod, a friend of mine, is going to be watching this. So he is going to learn how to draw as well. So tell all your friends and let's have some fun on with all this stuff going on. All we need to do is take our mind off it and concentrate on making a picture. So, some of you guys might remember these two projects that we just did. So we did this one, which was one of our moonscapes. And this is our second moonscape. And I believe this is, if we remember, this is from Elderon. I also got a complaint. If you remember, I said if you wanted to make this a drinking version, every time I said the word basically, you could have a shot. Well, I got a lot of letters from Saskatchewan. And they were basically complaining that I didn't say it enough. And so they had to make up basically breaks within the show just to keep it interesting. But that's another shout out to Tony and Roberto and the rest of the Saskatchewan gang. I hope you guys are doing well. So back to the project. We've got our railroad track. So what are we talking about here? What are we going to do? So we go back to the basics and we get our piece of paper. So what are we going to do? We're going to do a railroad track, and the focal point of the painting is going to be right there. Right there. So, how do we make this happen? As usual, in the first lunar landscape we did, we put our horizon line across at 50%. Half was used. And then on the second one, we went up 2/3. And what that did is it gave us a bigger foreground, and then it gave us a smaller background. So on this one, we're going to go halfway, but we're going to be breaking up the horizon line in a lot of different ways. So, the first thing we need to do is we need to 8.5 by 11. So, what's 8.5 by 11? Let's go 4 1/4 and 4 1/4. And of course, we're doing a straight line. So that's the horizon. Now, we're going to try and use our imagination as we go along here. Because this is where things are going to start to get a little Well, we're going to get into it. Enough said. Okay, so right there is actually halfway. So that is the very center. And what we want to do is we want to make so we're just going to go like that. And we're going to go oops. So, we always have to remember that this is 90 degrees. So this is square. We know that this is square. So you can actually line up your ruler, and with your eye should be smart enough, or let's put it to you this way, trust your eyes. If it's out, you'll be able to tell. You can immediately tell, but if it's right, that's pretty well, parallel. That's what we need to do. But we don't need to do that yet. So what we're going to do is we've got the rails. We've got the one rail. We've got the other rail. And it's now working its way up to the horizon right there. Now, as in with most railroads, we have so that's our ditch. Okay, so we're making a ditch. And then, so this is a raised platform. And we need that's going to be the edge. Okay, right there. That's going to be the edge. So we got the ties, or pardon me, the rails, and then we've got the beginning of the ties. So everything here is set to a line so that everything gets smaller and smaller, and this is your vanishing point right in here. And the vanishing point is basically where, the road and the sky meet. Now, I believe 80 miles is the average mile difference between a person standing there and looking at the horizon. There's about 80 miles in there. That's what I've heard. So if you take the amount of right here, you notice that everything is being sucked towards the horizon. And of course, we have to be consistent with that. The next thing we need to do is we need to, we're going to do a big one here. So what is that? That is the top of all of our telephone poles. So we know that this is square. So right here, this ruler is 90 degrees, and we know that it's square because it's a machine. You know, it's a ruler. It's supposed to be. So what we can do is okay, so we're just gonna, first of all, if you've ever noticed the line of a telephone pole, it's always slacked. Now, you think, what is that got to do with anything? Well, believe it or not, it's stuff like this that throw the eye off. Because you never see a perfectly tight telephone pole or power pole, because they always leave a little bit of slack in there for, for expansion and contraction during different seasons. And so, anyway, we're giving it a little bit of a hang. So we're going to get rid of our straight line, but what we've done is we've made some horizontal lines Okay, so we're going to keep that. And we notice here, this may be a little thick. Never use your hand to fix your problems, because you can smudge the paper. And I think we just need to make this one a little thicker. And we'll fix that later. So, as usual, I think for now, we're going to stick with our sun being this way. So we're just going to draw. Okay, so there's your There's where your sun's coming from. And we got our rails. So just everything that is going vertical is going to be lined up on the 90 degrees all the way across. Always. Like this. It's just the way it is. Okay? If you try and fight that and you do them funny, the eye's going to see it and it's just going to, So, right now, this is the end of all of the railroad ties. So what we need to do is we need to make these line up. And now, you just have to be very careful. So what we're doing is now we're making the railroad ties. And as we make these things, you always have to remember that the width of the railway tie will decrease as you go up. So by the time you get way up here, you're going to notice that the lines are starting to change. So I've done enough for now. What I'm going to do is do some more drawing, and then I'll come back and we'll finish it off. And I thank you again for another episode of the Bionic Water-colourist.